Two. Yeah, so
For the first time, I can say that I wasn't right.
you weren't yeah, that makes me very
No,
old.
I think I was, yeah.
Okay, good morning, Pat O'Connor, Mayor in Whitesboro. So I'm not gonna, you know my feelings on it, but I'll reiterate. I come up with a couple of other ideas because you guys are voting tonight, and in my crazy mind, I always feel like I cannot help myself but to try to convince someone from the opposition. So I consider we're on different sides of this, so I cannot help myself. So I'll do that before we get done. But let's talk about
I'm sure he's looking forward to that.
No, it isn't bad. It's just my take on the whole thing. But let's talk about the vote yesterday. You had about 300 people come out and
just over 200.
Just over 200 people come out and vote. So those that did, which to me that does say not a lot of people in Whitesboro really care one way or the other.
So Whitesboro has about 4,000 residents, and there's approximately 1,900 plus registered voters.
So out of that you got...
So 1,900 plus people were eligible to vote.
Yeah.
And of that, 212 came out. So.
Does that tell you though that a lot of people just really it's not a big deal for them?
You know, it could be a number of things.
Yeah.
The weather was lousy last night. It was freezing cold.
Yeah.
You know, all those things play a part and stuff like that. But you know, certainly we had hoped for a bigger turnout.
Yeah.
But
and you know that in a situation like this, those that are really against it are the ones that always, and you know, you've been through a couple of those votes.
Sure, yeah.
They're always fun.
Once or twice.
Once or twice. So before we get into all of it, obviously the no vote, keep it the same, was the winner, substantially in that.
Correct.
In that vote. But what does that tell you? I mean, what will you go to the board with tonight?
I think it tells us that the people of Whitesboro that know the history behind the seal, made the decision based on that. You know, it's a variation of a seal that dates back to 1884. So, you know, we're talking 132 years ago.
Yeah.
Did the vote surprise you?
It didn't. You know, people don't seem to like change with things like that pertaining to history. And we had a lot of calls leading up to
Do you think
the
it had
vote.
anything
People were asking why we're even doing it. So.
Did you think it had anything to do with the fact that there was a secret rumor going around that if people voted to change the seal, they would also lose their fire department? Did you hear that rumor?
Concerned citizens for public insignia.
Did you hear that out there?
Don't say that name too loudly, because that kind of sounds like it could catch.
Right, I mean it could, yeah, it very well could. So at the end of the day, how did the Daily Show get involved? How did that happen?
So before I talk about that, I want to make sure that everybody is absolutely clear that the vote that we had last night was, you know,
non-binding.
It was non-binding, but it was serious.
Yeah.
So the idea.
They're not going to take a serious look at it though.
The idea and the thought process to have the vote was absolutely serious.
Yep.
So you know, we did accomplish the goal of finding out what the residents felt. Now, as far as the Daily Show is concerned, you know, this has had national attention recently. Bill, I was talking to you guys here over the summer, I think, about it. And so, you know, it made national attention on the comedy side as well. So we were contacted by the Daily Show and the Nightly Show. And
the Nightly Show is the show that's on after the Daily Show.
Right after the Daily Show with Larry Wilmore, yes.
Yeah.
So it was inevitable that something at some time was going to be done with Whitesboro, New York as the focus.
Yeah.
So, you know, we talked about it as a board, and the options were, you know, we could participate and try to have something positive come out of it, which would be, you know, resident side of the story, or we could just essentially sit back and be a punching bag for a comedy show. And, you know, when you are weighed with that, it's a no-win situation either way. But if you sit back and do nothing, it could get a lot more ugly than.
Are you sure you're not going to be the punching bag though?
No, you know they have a job.
Because here's how we do it.
Yeah.
We lure you in with niceness, and then we just kick you right in the teeth. That's what ends up happening on these shows.
Sure. You know, it's obvious what their goal is. Their goal is to provide comic relief around you know, various number of issues. So. You know, what did come out of it is that we were able to use their graphic design specialists to create the serious seals that made up the vote, and the seals that were created were exceptional.
And they're willing to pay if you do change, correct me if I'm
If we
wrong.
were gonna change it, yes, they were.
They were gonna pay to have all the trucks redone and everything.
That's correct.
Yeah.
That's correct. So
Do you think people should have known that before the vote?
Well, I want to be clear. We didn't ask residents' opinion because of the Daily Show. You know, this has been an ongoing issue for decades, as has been talked about. But it so happened that we were going to have somebody from Comedy Central in Whitesboro, New York, one way or the other. So,
right. So you
the thought process was maybe we could mitigate the severity of what could come down from it.
Right.
Because ultimately, if you sit back and you do nothing and you allow somebody at that level to say whatever it is they want to say with absolutely no input from the other side, it could get very ugly.
But I think
Keep that thought in mind, because I want to address that coming back.
But I think we're making light of this by saying that Comedy Central is going to, take a comedic approach to this. I think that there are many people who are not taking a comedic approach to this at all.
So,
And you will not be able to control when people read headlines like the one in today's Post-Standard that says Whitesboro voters decide to keep racist logo.
no, you know what? I can't control what the local media does, what the national media does, and what the international media does. And I'm born here. I'm raised here. I know the people here, and anyone else that knows the people of Whitesboro knows that it's not a racist community. I understand the concern about the seal, but also it is not me and my responsibility to wave my mayor magic wand and change something that essentially dates back 132 years.
Okay. On the line is, I'll get you to Andrew. You're coming up next, Andrew. Let me take the caller first. Sergio, you're on. Good morning.
Hi.
Hi, Sergio.
The first time I saw the seal was like in the early 80s. I'm not a native of upstate New York.
Yeah.
And I looked at it a couple of times, and then my best guess, I had no idea that it was the wrestling match. But I always figured that that depicted one of the bloody skirmishes as General Hertner's troops were retreating from the Battle of Oristany.
Okay, yeah, all right. So that it was part of the battle that you're saying that.
That's what I always thought that seal symbolized. That there was probably some of the heavy fighting that after the post Battle of Oristany, as those troops were retreating back down into the valley, that they were fighting it out, slugging it out through Whitesboro area.
So you were okay with that?
No, I'm just saying that was an outsider's look.
An outsider's view. Okay.
That was like my guess of what it was supposed to depict. I had no idea it was a friendly wrestler.
So what are you saying? Are you saying that you are okay with the logo to stay, or that you feel the logo sends the wrong message to people who are outside who don't know the story?
I think it's up to the people of Whitesboro.
Well, ultimately, yeah.
But it also would not be bad for the people of Whitesboro as a community to, make that story better known, and maybe with some of the national media attention, maybe take advantage of that and let that story be known.
All right, good stuff, Sergio. Here's the problem with that is that we in the world, Americans, and don't blame the media on this, because the media just goes after whatever clicks their buttons, literally, is that story is not interesting. The story of why the logo is not racist, that's not interesting. The story that's interesting, and the story that people will read, is that here's this racist town in upstate New York that refuses to change the logo. So when you say you can't change it, you really could change it. You could control. You say you can't control what the outsiders say, but you really could control that by saying, we've decided we're going to change the logo just out of perception purposes.
Certainly we could, and the whole purpose of last night's vote, again, which was a serious vote, was to find out what our residents thought. So,
but you didn't find out what your residents thought because only 200 of them voted. I mean, you really don't know about and I understand how elections go, but this is not an election. This is a non-binding vote. 200 people of the 3,900, you say that...
1,900 registered voters.
200 of the 1,900 registered voters voted. So you really don't know what those 1,900 voters really think.
no, we don't, but, you know, I can't.
I understand.
And, you know,
Yeah.
so.
I think it says that we don't care.
That's what I said. I think that's exactly
Either
what it
way,
says.
I mean,
Yeah.
so.
So
yeah,
you definitely, here's what I would say. You now know you have 150 people that are adamant that the logo must stay the same out of the 1,900 that are registered voters.
Correct.
And to me, that's a very small minority.
It is a
That's
very.
how I would read that.
It's a very small minority, but you know what? You can't listen to what people say if they don't come out and say
I understand
it.
that.
So,
I do.
you know, and I understand, and it's difficult, and we hoped to have a greater turnout last night, but you know, that shouldn't discount the 212 people that did come out and the 157 people that did vote a certain way. So, yeah, certainly we can just up and say, you know what, there's a lot of negative attention on the Village of Whitesboro right now, and myself and the members of the village board could say, you know what, we're gonna take our executive authority to change this, but you know what, Bill, at the end of the day, if everybody's gonna complain when President Obama does it about gun control, obviously this is a much less smaller issue, but it's the same.
That's not even a close
No,
comparison.
but it's
Right.
it's the same thought process. You
It
don't
isn't.
abuse your.
It isn't. It's completely different.
You don't
I
abuse
understand
your. You don't
exactly
abuse
that.
your
All right, I
authority.
see where you're
We
going with
listen
that.
to what the people want.
I understand where you're going with that. Let me give you my takes on it. First of all, I do not believe it's racist. Because I know the story, and we talked about that earlier. I don't know if you heard this morning. We discussed it right
I
off the
heard.
bat, and I don't believe that it is racist. However, I believe people will perceive it as being racist. And I'm in an advertising business. This is what I do for a living. I'm about building brands and destroying them. I've destroyed a few in my day, okay, and then rebuilding them. The fact of the matter is that it does not help the brand of Whitesboro, and this is bigger than just Whitesboro. It's the entire greater Utica area, because you're a major part of this Utica region. And to me, it does send the wrong message. And if any logo, any slogan, any advertising campaign, any commercial that you have to, so you play a 30-second commercial and you got to buy another 30 seconds to explain what the 30-second commercial means. Anything that gives the wrong message or that you have to explain is just, I take it not from a politically correct standpoint. I take it from, it's just bad imaging, it's bad branding. It looks like it was made by drawn up by a maybe 5th grader. Have you figured out the origin of it? Do we know? God forbid, I hope it's not some
our historian.
80-year-old woman that did
No,
it,
I don't.
But it looks like a 5th grader made it. People across the country, there are headlines across the country using the word racist and Whitesboro in the same sentence, and that is not what Whitesboro is about. If this were a business, it would be a no-brainer. They never would have made the light of day, because of business. You have to look at your community as a business, the same way we have to look at this region. And that's why I would ask you to not, you seem like you've made up your mind, but I would at the very least, reconsider in the fact that it is your responsibility to handle the image of Whitesboro, because you want Whitesboro to grow. We have an opportunity for Whitesboro and this entire region to grow with nanotechnology coming in. And as mayor, I believe it's your responsibility to look at, not from the racist standpoint, not from the public perception, at this time in our history is most important, I believe, not just for Whitesboro, but the region. That's my little take that probably won't change your mind or anybody's mind, but I'm just telling you that's
No, your input is certainly appreciated, and you used a very key word there, responsibility. So as mayor, my responsibility, whether I agree, disagree, and I'm not saying I agree or disagree with last night's vote, my responsibility is to act on the wishes of the people that live and reside in the village of Whitesboro. So
Is it to act on the wishes, or is it to act in the best interest of? That's something you should think about today. Don't answer that now.
I think that
Sometimes you have to go.
It's no secret. It's no secret that this has made national news.
Right.
But despite that fact, people came out and knew the
200.
ramifications and cast their vote the way they cast their vote.
Andrew has a question. Go ahead there, Andrew.
I was just saying that the seal, the alternate seal created by the Daily Show staff looks really nice, and I think it still holds true to the history of Hugh White and the founding of Whitesboro. So with having said that, will there be consideration by you and the board to maybe look at that and say, okay, we're going to keep to the tradition of, our history, but we're just going to get a little bit of an update?
I think if Hugh White were alive today, he'd be like, "You're giving me that logo? Can't you come up with something better?" That's how I feel.
At least a better haircut.
At least a better do.
I mean, he's
Come
really
on.
done up there, nice.
All
I
right.
think the one with them holding hands, and like you even said, that's how those wrestling matches historically
Yeah.
started. So,
Last word.
I appreciate every time you guys have me here. I know that I'm going to get it straight, and I know you guys are going to cover it straight. So we have a board meeting tonight at 7 o'clock. For residents that were unable to come out last night, if they want to attend the board meeting tonight and share their feelings, certainly we welcome that as well. So there'll be a lot of good discussion around this moving forward. The residents that did come out took their position, so we'll see what happens moving forward.
Listen, I just want to make it very clear to you. Without this crazy story, I'd be talking about Donald Trump. So I'm really
thank
happy
you.
that this thing exists. I'm loving it. So let's keep it going. Don't end it now. Mayor Pat O'Connor, thank you.
Thank you.
As always. And we're still good, right?
Absolutely.
We can disagree.
Absolutely. You know what?
All right.
People can always disagree. It's not
That's what it's
personal.
supposed to be all about. So cool. All right, quick break. We'll come back here. Hold on tight. It's First News Keeler in the morning on WIBX.